Good morning, children. Today I am going to teach you lesson number 1, the Crystal Cave, part 3. They climbed for an hour and all of a sudden stumbled into a clearing. Hundreds of hoof marks were visible on the ground. There were also some pug marks of wild cats and imprints of elephant feet. Shangun cried out, "It is a natural salt lake." Wild animals came to lick the earth for salt. This took care of the salt requirement of their bodies. Means children, what happened then? They climbed to the upstream for an hour and all of a sudden stumbled. Stumble means fall into a clearing. And they saw hundreds of hoof marks and it was clearly visible. Visible means दिखाई दे रहे थे on the ground. And there was also some pug marks of wild cats and imprints of elephant feet. Okay. Shangun cried out and told that it is a salt lake. Wild animals came to lick the earth, earth means ground, for salt. And this took care of the salt requirement for their bodies. Okay, they lick the salt for their body requirement for their body. Okay. Okay, children, move to the next para. The salt spring furrow ran through the center of the clearing for some distance and then disappeared into a hollow. Theniak and Shangun raced towards the hollow. As they had guessed, it was a cave. The sunlight lit up the interior at the cave's mouth. Okay, children, then what happened? The salt spring furrow ran through the center of the clearing from some distance and then disappeared into a hollow. Hollow means घाटी, एक गड्ढा, एक खोखल. Okay, it disappeared into a hollow. Then Theniak and Shangun raced. Raced means ran towards the hollow, and when they reached, they found that it is a cave. एक गुफा है and the sunlight lit up means चमक रहा था interior at the cave at the mouth of the cave मतलब सूर्य की जो प्रकाश थी वो अंदर उसकी गुफा के अंदर जा रही थी और जिससे जो गुफा में जो क्रिस्टल था वो चमक रहा था. ओके. The walls of the tunnel like cave were coated with the white crystals. Heaps of crystals rose like molehills from the floor and dangled like wasp nests from the ceiling. The pure white crystalline heaps glittered in the slanting rays of the afternoon sun. Theniak bent down and picked up a pinch of crystals, put it to the tip of the tongue. "It's a salt," he whispered in wonder, as if unable to believe his tongue. The walls of the tunnel like cave were coated means covered with white crystal means मणि की तरह diamond की तरह जड़े हुए लग रहे थे. Okay, heap means mound of crystal rose like a molehills from the floor. Okay, heap of crystal means crystal का ढेर फ्लोर से ऊपर उठा हुआ था. ऐसा लग रहा था कि वो मोल हिल्स है. ओके, मोल मीन्स छुछुंदर एंड मोल हिल्स मीन्स छुछुंदर की बाम्बी. ओके, एंड डैंगल्ड मीन्स टू हैंग फ्रीली, झूलना, लटके हुए थे, लाइक वॉस्प नेट्स. वॉस्प नेस्ट मीन्स हड्डे का छत्ता फ्रॉम द सीलिंग मीन्स छत, रूफ. मीन्स चिल्ड्रन, जब थेनियाक एंड शंगुन केव के अंदर जाते हैं तो देखते हैं कि जो सॉल्ट रहता है वो हीप मीन्स एक टीले की तरह बने हुए था और जैसे वो लग रहा था जैसे हड्डे का छत्ता छत से लटके हुए था. वो एक टीला भी लग रहा था जो कि फ्लोर से उठा हुआ है मोल हिल्स की तरह, और वॉस्प नेट्स एक हड्डे की छत्ते की तरह सीलिंग से लटका हुआ भी है. और क्या होता है, वैसे ही जो सॉल्ट के जो क्रिस्टल जो थे वैसे ही दिख रहे थे, जैसे लग रहा था कि मोल हिल्स बने हुए हैं और वॉस्प के नेट्स की तरह लटके हुए हैं. ओके. द प्योर व्हाइट क्रिस्टलाइन हीप्स, जो प्योर व्हाइट क्रिस्टलाइन थे, ग्लिटर्ड इन द स्लैंटिंग रेज ऑफ द आफ्टरनून सन. और जो शुद्ध सफेद क्रिस्टलाइन का जो ढेर था वो ग्लिटर्ड मीन शाइन कर रहे थे, चमक रहे थे. जो दोपहर में सूर्य की रोशनी जो थी उस पर पड़ रही थी, जब उस पर आ रही थी स्लैंटिंग मतलब तिरछे से, तो वो चमक रहा था. ओके. Theniac bent down and picked up a pinch of crystal and put it to the tip of his tongue. And he recognized that it is a salt and whispered, means say slowly, means फुसफुसाया, that her tongue didn't believe this. और उसे विश्वास नहीं हो पा रहा था कि ये salt है. Okay. Okay, children, move to the next para. Soon he began to hop about wildly in imitation of tribal war dance, whooping and shrieking in gay abandon. We have found salt, he cried. Shangun crooned. There is enough salt in this cave to last our village 1,000 years. That tunnel like cave is a natural salt mine. The spring flowed through it, carrying some of salt away, said Shangun. Okay, children, then what happened? Soon he began to hop, उछलने लगा, कूदने लगा, about wildly imitation of tribal war dance. Okay, when Theniak tasted and recognized as salt, what happened then? He began to hope wildly, means जंगली की तरह क्या करने, नाचने लगा. And imitation means copy the dance of tribal war. And whooping means hoo करके चिल्लाते हैं ना, shriek करते हैं ना, means shout कर रहे हैं. In gay abandoned means without care, बिना सोचे कि इतनी खुशी हो गई उसको, कि इतना हैप्पी हो गया कि we have found the salt. He started dancing like a wild animals, as imitating the ट्राइबल डांस. जैसे ट्राइब्स के लोग डांस करते हैं वैसा क्या करने लगा, वो इमिटेट करने लगा, डांस करने लगा, हुपिंग करने लगा, खुश होकर. ओके. Shangun crooned. Crooned means hum, gungunana, and said, "There is enough salt in this cave to last our village 1,000 years." मीन्स इसमें इतना सॉल्ट है कि हमारे विलेज के लिए कि ये हजारों साल तक चलेगा. एंड दैट टनल लाइक केव इज अ नेचुरल salt mines, means salt mine means खदान भंडार. Okay, and the spring that flowed through it carried some of the salt away. Okay, okay, children, next para. The sun was already halfway down on its journey across the horizon. The children knew they must hurry back to their village, though they wanted to locate the salt spring. They knew this was not the right time. They drank the water in the bamboo tubes. Then they placed the tubes upside down on the ground to dry them completely. They packed the tubes with salt. Then, carrying the treasure upon their backs, they began to descend home. Means, children, what happened? The sun was already half down on its journey across the horizon. Means, sun was about to set, and they knew that they must hurry back to their village. So they wanted to locate the salt spring. Okay, but they knew this was not the right time. So, to as a sample, they drank the water from the bamboo tubes that they have packed and placed the tubes upside down on the ground to dry them completely. Okay, and when the tube was dried, they filled the tubes with the salt and carried the salt as a treasure upon their backs and descent. Descent means go home, return back means they descent home means they returned back. They filled the bamboo tubes with the salt and they returned to their home. Okay, children, move to the next para. The villager had meanwhile begun worrying. When they saw the two children descend, the crowd broke out into loud cheers. The children ran excitedly to Grand Kamlong. They shouted, "We have found the cave of salt. Our village will be prosperous again." Unstamping the bamboo tubes, they poured the salt on the earth. The heaps glowed in the light of the setting sun. Grandma laughed happily. "Well done, children," the chief said. "Your courage deserves to be rewarded. You too will be the chief guest during this Loku festival." Picking Thanyak up, the chief placed him on his shoulder. Shangun's father picked her up and placed her on his shoulders. Grandma Kamlong broke out into knocked ballad for courage. The villagers sang along and began a grand celebration. Okay, children, then what happened? The villagers and grandma were worried about the children, but when they saw the children returning, they cheered. Okay, and the children ran excitedly to the grandma Kamlong and shouted together that they have found a cave of salt and now their village will be prosperous again. Okay, सुखी हो जाएगा, wealthy हो जाएगा. Okay, unstrapping. Unstrapping means open. Unstrapping means open the bamboo tubes. They opened the bamboo tubes and poured the salt onto the earth. The heaps glowed in the light of setting sun. Grandma laughed happily. Okay, and the village chief was also there. He appreciated the children's bravery and announced to be chief guest during Loku festival and to be rewarded. Okay, the chief picked up the Thanyak up and placed him on his shoulder. And Shangun's father picked her up and placed on his shoulders. And Grandma Kamlong and the villagers all sang the knocked ballad for courage in joy, in happiness. Okay, to celebrate that happiness, they sang the ballad song. Okay, so what do we learn from this story, children? That we should be courageous and should be brave, courageous and brave to do the things, to explore the things. Okay, thank you.